Okay, artists who post on social media. Stop me if you've heard this one. You shouldn't care about the numbers. You should just make art for yourself. Or wait, here's a good one. If you're making art for attention, you're doing it for the wrong reason. If I hear one more dang person say that, I'm going to have an aneurysm. I swear. I don't mean to be dramatic, but this is a huge pet peeve of mine, and I want to discuss it in more depth. Namely, why these comments have good intentions, but are ultimately dismissive and don't understand the very real concerns that many artists have. My name is Elliot. I'm an artist whose passion is historical fiction and storytelling. I'm currently working towards a short story comic set in 1960 about a closeted 11-year-old named Mavis defying gender roles in their church's nativity play with the help of their imaginary friend. Then later a long-form comic about Mavis and my partner's character Lucy, being given the chance to live their lives over again starting at age 16 after passing away of old age with decades of regrets. If you like any one of those things, want to hear more about my characters, listen to me ramble in the background of whatever you're doing, etc., like and subscribe. I also noticed that a bulk of my views actually aren't from my followers, so if you do choose to subscribe, consider clicking the little bell down there too so you can actually be notified when a new video comes out. I also sell stickers on Etsy if you like my art, so check that out in the link in the description. Anyway, let's get into it. So why is there a stigma against being genuinely upset when your art doesn't get attention online? There's almost no context in any area of life where attention-seeking isn't an insult, with the accused typically being seen as vain or just kind of pathetic in general. It's also pretty heavily tied to the assumptions of disingenuousness. A very cruel but sadly probably most common example is people struggling with their mental health. Not saying the gravity of that is in any way equivalent, just trying to illustrate the type of phenomenon I'm talking about. If someone who very much needs help gets slapped with the label of attention-seeking, paradoxically, it somehow means that they're lying about needing help. Even though you can't get help in the first place without first getting attention. It makes literally no sense. Broadly, there's a weird perception that if someone wants to be noticed, recognized, etc., whether it be negatively or positively, then that's all they want. That they have no other desire, no other end goal. This extends to artists who are trying to get their start and are either open about tailoring some of their pieces to fit what they think might get more eyes on their work, or are frustrated that they seem to just keep running and running on this hamster wheel and aren't getting anywhere. I very much disagree with this judgment because it makes the assumption that artists can't draw for the love of the game, but also want recognition. I mean, come on, think of this from a logical standpoint. Why would someone be posting their art online at all if they don't want it to be seen and appreciated by more people than they could feasibly show to in person? If they want just a place to put their stuff for safekeeping, look back on themselves or whatever, then why not a private folder or a flash drive? Anyway, do people still use flash drives? I don't know, the point still stands. Everyone on social media, regardless of what they do, is there trying to be noticed by somebody in some way, shape, or form. So why is there something especially wrong with that if you're an artist? This is simply what these platforms are for. And someone can still be happy about their work, happy to be making it, and be upset when there seems to be no one willing to share that joy. For me in particular, I love my OCs and stories so much, and I'm so proud of what I've been able to create so far, but stories are meant to be experienced. If it's only for me, then it's not whole. Because the way I see it, narratives are fundamentally influenced by their audiences. And it's that sense of community and putting multiple minds together that really breathe life into them. Can you tell that I come from a fandom background? You might think differently about your own stories and characters, and that's totally okay, but I know I'm far from the only one whose end goal is for my work to be a shared experience. The second thing that really bothers me here is that there usually isn't a distinction made in the conversation between hobbyists and people who want whatever kind of artistic endeavor they're doing to be their job. If someone's just posting on social media because it's fun and they don't really have actual stakes in doing well, then yeah, most of the time the simple advice of, if you're not having fun, stop doing it, is tried and true. But if an artist has an end goal in mind, especially financial, that social media is just a piece of the plan for, then they're not gonna have the luxury to just quit and not care. Having a goal, yes, even a dream, is hard work. Not every part of getting you there is going to be an enjoyable experience. And growing a social media following is definitely not exempt from that principle. And you know what? I've been saying social media this and social media that, but that's just because the whole doing it for clout conversation is usually had in this context. But this is something artists have to deal with in person too. It's naturally on a smaller scale numbers-wise, but having an absolutely minuscule, if any, amount of people really care about your work hurts just as much offline. And the negative feelings that could come of it are also likewise just as looked down upon. Basically, if you express frustration, you're never going to fully escape the perception that you're a poor, misguided soul that just needs to learn the true meaning of art. And oh my gosh, my dog is so loud. He keeps eating and pacing around me. How dare he be alive? I'm kidding. I love you. I love you so much. You're so sweet. Okay. Anyway, back to the video. I find per this logic, a lot of hobbyists themselves tend to be saying these kinds of things because they're simply sharing what works for them. And that, of course, makes sense. If you're purely doing art to decompress or mentally stimulate yourself in your free time, of course the only thing you have to concern yourself with is enjoying yourself. Just know that not everyone has that aim alone. As harsh as it sounds, doing things you don't necessarily want to do or don't make you feel amazing is part of working towards having any type of job, even a dream job. It doesn't mean that a person doesn't truly want to be an artist or necessarily needs to find their love for art again if they're struggling with the non-art aspects of it. Another group of people I notice here frustrates me a little bit more, because it seems like they should probably have a little more awareness of how empty and ineffective this sounds. Have you ever seen one of those posts and videos that's like, just draw for yourself, or it's not about the numbers, etc., etc.? I'm probably being redundant. And then you look at their follower count and it's at least over 9K. Like, what? Girl, sir, my sibling in Christ, you are well on your way to making it already. You can probably do that and be relatively okay because you have the numbers. You've already found at least enough success to build off of what you already have a lot more easily. But artists that have been sitting at less than 1,000, probably a lot smaller for years, have very little interaction no matter how hard they've tried, and want a career out of this, are in a very different place than you are. And even if you think an artist would be happier if they just stopped caring so much and contented themselves with making art a hobby, and if they take off, they take off, it's ultimately their decision, their dream, and you shouldn't be dismissive of it in this way. Or anyway, really, just don't dismiss people. It's rude. It's not nice. Make an effort to not do that. Alright, moving on. I think the last part is what ultimately bothers me about the sentiment as a whole. Plain and simple, it feels like gently telling another artist that maybe they should give up. Even if people don't mean it like that, between the lines, I can't help but hearing, I don't think you can do it. I don't think you're cut out for this. I really appreciate when artists with a big following hype up smaller artists' ambitions and try their best to share what worked for them, give resources, tips, etc. There's a lot to be said about whether some of this advice is even effective because the online world changes a mile a minute, and many of these people got their start years ago, but it's ultimately the message that counts. Gathering a following, building a community of people who want your art, making a demand for it, it's hard work. It's not conceited or attention-seeking to have a goal and be cognizant of the necessary steps it takes to achieve that. Let me reiterate. If no one's interested, then no one's paying even a penny for your services. Just basic facts of being employed. In any way, shape, or form, at any job known to man. Here's some advice for anyone in general who means well but tends to have this habit to use "don't worry about engagement" as a platitude. If you wouldn't say it to a small business owner getting their start, don't say it to an artist trying to grow their audience. Imagine your friend is doing their damnedest to open, I don't know, a cat cafe or something. If things were going slow and they were getting discouraged because no one's interested, would you tell them, it's okay, don't worry that no one's coming in, just enjoy the cats for yourself? But no, you wouldn't. That's terrible advice. Your hypothetical friend can love taking care of cats and want to succeed in the actual business side too. They put time, money, and heart into making this dream a reality, and seeing it through matters to them. Artists trying to go pro, no matter which way you swing it, need to care what others think and need to be proactive about getting people to like their art, or hell, even just get eyes on it in the first place. Even if you aren't trying to sell your art in the traditional sense and just want an audience as a storyteller, if no one wants to see your stories, get invested in your worlds and characters, then you're not going to be able to share this thing you love so much with others on quite the scale you truly want to. Simple as that. And, depending on the circumstances, actually in a lot of circumstances, you may not even be able to finish the story at all because of the lack of a big enough support system. Whether that be monetary, literally buying you time to work on it as opposed to having to spend that time making money in other ways, or just being encouraged to keep going when things get rough because others are counting on you to make something they love too. Then of course, it usually garners the sentiment, you should be passionate about what you're making, don't just continue a project to please others. But I want to again make the argument that those two things don't have to negate each other. There are plenty of reasons someone might lose steam that have nothing to do with their enthusiasm for the project itself. For example, I have ADHD, and because of my busted dopamine receptors, it's difficult for me to remain motivated to finish projects I really, really care about, without those shorter little boosts along the way. And medication can only do so much. You may have heard a few artists who've succeeded in making this their job say, there's no such thing as art block for me because if I don't make art, I don't pay my bills. Well, that's some rock solid logic there, but it's not really meant for artists still developing their careers from the very bottom. My art does not pay my bills. I made a grand total of $12 this year on Etsy and a single commission, cumulatively. But if I want a career out of this, I have to act like it's my job. On top of the job that actually pays me that I go to 8 hours a day. Let's take webcomics, for example, a famously long and arduous... Is it arduous or arduous? Saying it now, it's arduous. Okay. Let's take webcomics, for example, a famously long and arduous endeavor. No tangible results other than the thing just sitting there existing in return for such a grueling process can be downright debilitating to many. What I'm trying to get at here is that not making progress with growing an audience can really, really wear you down in this stage. It's so easy to get into the trap of asking yourself, why am I even doing this? When you're grinding so freaking hard and nothing's coming of it. It's more than okay to be upset by that, and it doesn't make you a fake artist or doing it for the wrong reason, if the love of creating itself isn't quite enough to sustain you through all of that stress and rejection. There's a lot that goes into making art as a profession, and measure by measure, a lot of it isn't even making art. It's a very different kind of work it takes to make sure your name is out there and that art will be recognized. The quote numbers are absolutely a dopamine hit, and that's often not good. We've all talked to death about how the internet is rotting our brains with cheap happy triggers, yada yada, but hey, each number actually has a real person behind it. Someone who's saying, I see what you did there, keep doing it. Tangible proof that you are at least moving somewhere, and not just running in place. I want to pivot a little bit more and fulfill a rite of passage for every artist on YouTube apparently, talking about Whisper of the Heart, because it honestly gives a great example of this struggle. Whisper of the Heart is about a young writer named Shizuku, who abandons her studies right before high school entrance exams and dedicates herself full-time to writing. She has a kind of anxious passion and drive that evidently has spoken to tons of artists, and she ultimately does not succeed by the end of the movie. She burns herself out as a relatively inexperienced writer. Her creations need work, and she is not at the stage of life where she should completely dedicate herself to getting better, and she might never be. There's an underlying implication that life might always get in the way, and hard work doesn't always lead to success like most of us have been led to believe. This is painfully relatable to me as someone who just started a full 9-to-5 where I actually have to be at work by 8:15 and sometimes work Saturdays. But anyway, I cannot pump out a comic page in under 8 hours. Hell, even that's generous. And I have very little free time. The best I was able to do was to get a job that hopefully leaves me with enough energy to use that time wisely. A lot of people interpret Whisper of the Heart as being about the fear of failure, or the harsh reality of having to find an incredibly difficult balance between life and your passion projects. But I also think Whisper of the Heart is a story about the fear of indifference. Picture this. You spend months writing the novel, or animating the pilot, or writing the comic, whatever it is. In your young mind, this is the single most important thing you've ever made, and its success will define the trajectory of your career forever. When you finally show it to the first person who's ever laid eyes on a single word, let alone the finished product, you're so nervous you sit outside well into the night. Hours and hours unable to bear waiting another second to hear what he has to say, yet unable to take the stress of watching that scrutiny in real time. At last he finishes it, and he says, "It's very good." This is not what you wanted to hear. She leaps at the opportunity to insist that her book is not good, and I don't think she's even fully aware of why she does it. Why those words just explode out of her when they never have before, despite thinking it over and over. But I really believe she isn't doing it as a form of emotional self-harm. Shizuka's so desperate to be acknowledged in a way she's never truly been before. As an aspiring professional with a long way to go who can one day do so much more. She perceived Nishi's response as wishy-washy, not truly seeing her book for the clear work of progress that it is. I think it's a very real fear of hers that he would have said the very same thing with no elaboration if the book was absolutely incredible, or the worst thing he's ever read. That if she wasn't standing in front of him directly asking his opinion, then he wouldn't give the book more than a passing glance on an actual bookshelf. No creative person likes to be straight up insulted, but feeling like it simply wouldn't matter if your work never existed in the first place is a more creeping gut punch. Of course, Nishi isn't actually indifferent, and this is just Shizuku's hairpin trigger anxiety talking. But this brief moment was truly a reflection of how I sometimes feel being stuck in the same place for so long with the relationship between my art and the outer world. How sometimes I just want people to say something, anything, even if it's bad. You're not supposed to make art for attention or fame or whatever, but screw it. I love to draw, of course, but I also create things to actually contribute something. Sue me. I want to share what makes me happy with others. So if it doesn't spark anything, then what's the point? Or at least what's the point of putting it out there? How can it matter enough to put so much of yourself and your life into it? I don't want my stories to just exist. I don't even want them to just be good. I want them to breathe. You want to know why I love Good Omens or Flag Means Death so much? Because they give so much life to the things that matter to me. My own little corners of the world, like the queer community and the memories that rearranged my sense of reality and self. Like longing to find the intersection between my queerness and my faith. Or the terror of tasting the impending death of someone you love, and those precious few moments you have to do something about it. I want to do that for others with my art and writing. So yes, I do want engagement. And I don't at all see it as an oh well thing when I consistently fail to earn any. And I'm going to care until this is my full-time job with a big fat cushion to drop off a little bit and not have my livable income put in jeopardy. Before we go, it's only fair to acknowledge one of the main, I don't want to say arguments against my point, because that's not really what this is, just kind of a reasonable reminder that's brought up as a retort, and that is, people don't owe you anything. Yeah, I definitely back this one up. I see artists unfortunately becoming bitter and falling into this trap of blaming their would-be audience for not seeing their potential, which is an energy that shows itself easily and hurts your ambitions even more. There was a really cringy TikTok trend a while back of artists showing their low view counts with an audio saying, "Lower your expectations to 0." I don't think it was a cadence, but I can't remember it. It came off as very entitled and ungrateful. But it's been recently replaced with a new trend that follows pretty much the same format, but has an audio with a presumably young artist saying, "Thank you for 20 followers. Thank you," which is much more positive and encouraging. It's like I said, every little like, follow, etc. is a real living person who notices and appreciates you. It's okay to share your anxious feelings about the state of your art career in an appropriate way. I'm very pro not bottling that up, but you always need to make sure that you're noticing and appreciating the people who support you in return. Just ask yourself how you would feel if an artist you really liked treated you like your support meant nothing to them. Despite how frustrating this can all be, it's more important than ever to celebrate even the smallest of wins. Every step forward matters, and so long as you're moving, you're gonna do just fine. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and please don't think this was in any way me complaining or being ungrateful for all of you guys who've continued to support me. I read every comment and reply to most of them too, because being able to just spark a dialogue with something I created is probably what I value the most about being an artist. Feel free to plug your own stuff, share your ambitions, whatever you need right now in the comments. Don't give up. Keep your feet on that road, keep running after what you want like you're being chased by a lion, and good effing luck. All right, see ya!